I'm eyeballing everything in this recipe.
Hello!
What's up?
How are you guys doing? I hope you're having an awesome day. If you don't know me, I'm Jugachi, and the guy that is baking is Nico. How are you guys doing? What are you cooking, Nico?
I'm making a cheesecake. I don't know if it's specifically if it's a German cheesecake or just a regular cheesecake. It doesn't look like a regular cheesecake though.
So yeah, today we're going to answer some questions, if you guys have any questions. We're roughly going through the Q&A that we already did, so the FAQ. Gonna answer some questions there, and then we're gonna proceed through all the announcements that we have done over the time. And if you have any questions regarding anything, just leave us know. I highly suggest that you're not trolling, because if you have troll answers or questions, we're not answering them, or you get banned from the channel. So, and we also have Tetris here, so if we have anything that Nico and I don't know, he's going to jump in and he's going to answer those questions. We also have Vlad in chat, so Vlad is going to answer some questions in the chat. Same for Tetris. So while he is cooking like a champ, let's.
Who will fuck up the cake? I bet 100 CWT. Okay.
So if he fucks it up, he's gonna give CWT. Good. Good to know. I have all the questions on the left side. Let's see. You probably already know that in season 4 we are not having any milestones, and we got a lot of questions why, and basically the reason it just doesn't fit our server structures right now. What did you say, Nico?
I was about to say that it doesn't fit the structure of a seasonal server.
Yeah. So the next thing that a lot of people ask is, will there be finally difference between Templar tanking and Raft tanking? And I think with today's patch notes, you probably already know what kind of changes we've done, and maybe Nico can explain what the changes are right now, because we have done a bunch of testing at the moment on the test server. And what is your experience with the Raft tanking and Templar tanking? You think those changes are good, or?
They're good. I think they're needed. Seraph will still be able to tank most of the dungeons, but obviously with a little bit more investment than last season. But it's still doable. But Templar for sure is gonna be the main tank. Much cheaper, easier to get the HP, and you will struggle even with a Templar in the Dark Trials.
Ooh, yeah, Dark Trials. That's gonna be a big challenge. I can say that for sure. Let's see. You probably have noticed that we are going to release some new map buffs, which will be countering the issues that we had in the past with AoE farming and 1v1 farming. But more on those things you will notice when the server is live. And we had also a very big discussion about the things that we wanted to have, but the community was strictly against our plans that we had, so we did all those kind of changes. And more on that thing, we are going to give you more infos later, or Michi's gonna answer that if you wanna pick it up or follow up with anything. So yeah, if you've read the patch notes so far, you already see that we are trying to get all the classes in terms of farming balancing together, because we've noticed that some AoE classes and some 1v1 classes are insanely good when it comes to early game farming or late game farming. So over time, it's a very long process of trying to get them all a little bit more together. So it's gonna be hard. Like getting the perfect balance is like almost impossible, but we try our best. So we also speaking about the season server, that we are saying that the season server has a lower EXP rate. The EXP rate for seasons will be 30x. So you are leveling quite slower, and this is probably more fun for everyone than just rushing through everything in insane speed.
If you use amps, have VOD buff, premium, and everything set up, you'll able to reach, I think, 105x, if I'm correct. I think Tetris will correct me on that one if I'm wrong. So basically, it's gonna be like leveling on main server with no amps, like roughly the same.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of people actually doing this kind of test over the past few days before the season or the server went offline. And what I've seen, the majority were like 1 to 150 in like 3 to 6 hours, depending on your skill, how good you are with leveling and farming and all that kind of stuff. So I think 3 to 6 hours seems fine up to 150.
It also depends on if you level 1v1 and AoE. Obviously AoE is way faster. But I'd say like, I don't know, like 5 hours should be, if you're efficient with the 1v1, you should be able to reach 150.
Yeah, true. Of course, AoE you have it easier early on, 100% sure.
Yeah, that's gonna be around like 3 hours if you're efficient.
So one change that we have done, even though it was already been changed on the main server, we have removed the Soul Link ability on Savage Wilds jewelry. I think that's a very big change, which is very nice. Talking about Savage Wilds, someone already asked, Savage Wilds easy mode soloable. With the introduction of the solo dungeons, or the easy versions of those dungeons, we are trying to get to solo players, so it is not fully soloable. Some dungeons are, but it's aimed to that you need a tank and one DD to clear the dungeon. So if you set up 2 characters, a tank and a DD, you should be good to go. I already see that question also in chat, where there's asking, what about the master weapons that you need from the early dungeons? You still need them. Like, you need to run those dungeons to get those weapons to later on create creation tokens for your Bloodbane and Titanbane weapons. So you have to use them.
Basically, the Bloodbane weapon is worse than the Anko weapon. And I don't know what you said, Yuga, a while back. I think 2-star or 3-star is the
that we have introduced a new way of progression with the Bloodbanes, because how it was in the past, you had to get 6 tokens and the plan and a stone to then have a fully upgraded done Bloodbane weapon, and we thought that barrier is too big. So we have decided to make star weapons. So you create a Bloodbane weapon with just the Hammer Stone and the construction plan, and then you have a 0-star weapon. And it is roughly 2 to 3 stars. I think it's like 3 stars. If the weapon has 3 stars,
then it's worth to
it is on the same point as an Anku weapon. But you can now just put in multiple tokens. You can do them one by one into them, and you can already use that weapon, and you don't have to wait a long time. Like, you can already put in your cards, your element. You can already upgrade the Bloodbane weapon, and you don't have to wait until a very long time. And as soon as you have 2 or 3 tokens in there, you can already use it, and it will be better than the Anku weapon. You could go for the Anku weapon I would upgrade it to Ultimate plus 10 and don't do like you always did in the past, like make it Angelic plus 20 and all this stuff. You could save those resources later on, you could save it early on, those resources, and just use those angel coins and all these materials and put it already on your Bloodbane weapon. So that's a big change.
Basically, you're progressing your weapons now.
Yeah.
You can have them, like, I wouldn't say fairly early because still Heffa, but you don't need to save your money for the Bloodbane, because you will need to upgrade all weapons and you can still upgrade it meanwhile.
Yeah, that's true. Fairly often asked question is also if we're going to introduce the weekly offers like we had in Season 3. By the way, they were never in Season 3. We removed them before Season 3, so there will be no real offers that we had with like special bundles of full of Superior Wake and stuff, so we have made changes to that, so they will not appear. Then we always have the topic Cascada versus Eldion. When should you go to Cascada, and when should you go to Eldion?
Cascada is basically for pure money farm, and Eldion is for angel coins and EXP. So that's like the big differences, I would say. If you need like pure money, you just go Cascada. If you need like materials and EXP, you go Eldion.
Oh yeah, you basically you have the monsters in Cascada, and every monster in Eldion is basically the same EXP or even higher EXP than the monster in Cascada. And the Eldion monsters are like you need like the third of the damage to farm there, so it's a very good EXP part. And with the introduction of the second island, Sunfall Islands, it is aimed more towards 1v1, so it is balanced around the fact that you have to 2-hit the monsters, and mages have a harder time to AoE there because their damage is capped and all that kind of stuff. So it will be a fun part. And with that, we also introduced more daily quests and a unique Eldion quest chain finally. People have been asking why our quests are not working, because most of the early game quests of Flyff are basically and practically useless. And we just created a new Eldion quest line that you can do. It shouldn't be your main focus to do the quest line, but it is an alternative if you say like, I don't know where to farm or level or what to do. You can just do that quest line and you can gain Angel Rank EXP with that and Sphere Grid EXP. To level your
There's
Sphere
also lore.
The
and
quest,
lore.
Yeah, and lore. the quest chain is not going to be something you do in one day. We put some time into it to make it last a couple of days. So some quests will require you to, I mean, you will be stuck on a quest for 2 days. Some of them, at least. So it's nothing you can rush straight up like all the quests in one
Yeah,
run.
you're practically blocked by the requirements because, for example, there will be like a quest where you have to kill a certain boss X amount of times, and it takes you like 2 days to fulfill this if you run the dungeons like 3 times. So you have to wait at least 2 days to do it. Let's see. You guys were asking how the competitive gameplay side of seasons will be, and with the remade Hall of Fame, I think we have put out more variety in how you can compete with others and practically put yourself or your characters that you want to have permanently into the game. These NPCs will be placed in Albion, and they can be in Albion City or in Sunfall City or some other place that will be implemented in the future. And I think that's a very good addition to the game, that you can, if you're playing well and you put a lot of effort into the server and you try to accomplish something that other people couldn't accomplish in that time, that you will be put there forever and everyone can see your character and what you have accomplished. Oh, Knork is asking about the new Ringmaster spell. Maybe Nico want to talk about it.
What do you want to know, Knork? The spell is made so it can complement Merkaba for PvE. For example, in dungeons, you can place Merkaba and use the skill to do some more damage. The skill won't be a main skill, so to say. It does a fair share of damage, but it doesn't compete with the top DPSs.
He asked about PvP and the skill.
The PvP and the skill, you can early on you can kill people, but towards mid and late game, you can't kill shit.
Yeah, it is more like a support skill. If you don't have to create 1v1 gear per se to do dungeons and stuff, like you can use the skill to damage statues, bosses, monsters. You can be a supportive ringmaster. You don't have to create a separate strength gear, ICD gear. But obviously you can, and the 1v1 Ringmaster will still be better than this skill, so there's still a viable option to go the ICD strength route for the Ringmaster 1v1.
If you want me to tell you if it can compete with the 1v1 knuckle damage, no, not at all. But you can use the you can farm some of the content with the skill, yes.
Yeah. It's a very good addition. I like that skill.
Me too.
And we will see what kind of impact it really gonna have in PvP. Like, we can do so much testing, but we'll see how the impact in PvP will, in the end.
I did like max gear damage though.
I see Exterior say, so it's useless. Nice. No, you are misunderstanding completely what they are saying.
Yeah,
the skill is viable and usable, but it's not like your Ringmaster is going to deal more damage than, like, for example, dedicated people that use either crit equipment or, let's say, another class like a Mentalist. Like,
you need 100-icity.
Yes, it's an additional skill for the battle/supportive type of ringmasters that perhaps want to use spells to deal damage, and the only option they had was Merkaba. It's not supposed to replace other classes, it's an addition that is viable.
You can handle yourself in 1v1 situations with it.
Yeah. And it makes it easier for some ringmasters that doesn't want to switch between stamina gear the support gear and damage gear all the time, they can just switch between 2 gears and it's a little bit easier.
Yeah.
You've guys been asking if there will be channels when Cascada, for Cascada and Eldion. Of course, we're gonna implement some channels to it, so there will be 3, 4, 5, 6 channels. I don't know the exact number, but it will be so that everyone gets their spawns that they want to be at and can farm. You've guys been also asking about the Memento Siege, and with the expansion of the Hall of Fame, you can also get a unique NPC that shows that you have scored the most points. I think it's the most points. And you can be put there. And what Memento Siege practically is, if you have never heard of this before, it is an additional siege that we have added where you get power-ups, gear, everything is automatically, you get everything automatically maxed. It is a completely balanced PvP system, and you can fight there, and you get like half the siege medals that you would get in a normal siege, but you have like an equal siege, which I think is very cool. Especially it gives a chance for players that don't know how to set up a PvP character and they're more focused in PvE and don't want to create some kind of gear to enter PvP with an already PvP ready character and maybe experience a few couple of sieges, and maybe they get hooked and play normal siege on top of it with their normal character. Now comes to the event type of things. So you guys know that we have multiple type of events, and we have the GM events and the server side events. And within the first, I would say the first 2 weeks or even 3 weeks, there will be no server farming event, because season server launch is basically already a big event where thousands of people are going to start playing, and it's going to be huge. And then after like 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to implement a server farming event, and the GM event's gonna start like a week after
release, yes.
The week after release. And we also introduced for GMs a new event where you basically get put in, it's called a death race, where you get placed into the volcano dungeon completely naked, and you have to get up to the where you could get master or hero in the original game. You just have to run there, and there's a bunch of aggro monsters that you need to dodge, and it's like a little survival game, and you need to dodge monsters and all that kind of stuff. So it sounds a little bit fun in between. So some people also don't really know what a season is. A season is basically to begin. We're going to start a new server where everyone starts from zero, and it's basically a fresh server, and everyone starts from zero and try to get as good as possible, as fast as they want. Some all, of course, want to rush, and some just want to take time. And seasons is always good for new players because they have a bunch of other people to play with. They kind of get new friends. Players can create guilds and all that kind of stuff very easily. And it's just an overall very well and good experience. And a season usually takes like, or is running for like 3 to 4 months. We say like 3 months plus, because then after 3 months we're gonna ask the community, and if the community decides like, yeah, now is a good point to merge, then we're gonna merge. And the merge is basically all the season content, like your characters and everything, going to be saved and going to be brought over to the main server, and you can continue playing your seasonal character on the main server. Also, a unique thing about season is only during seasons you can earn different tier sets. There's bronze, silver, platinum, diamond, and legend, where you can get unique things that you can only get during a season and not on the main server, even a season server is running. So this is like season exclusive thing. And I think the season sets look pretty nice. I like the tier sets. And then the last question that we had in the Q&A were basically if we're going to upgrade the FAQ section, and that is most likely my part. I will be starting updating the FAQ section, and we're going to update the FAQ section or the question section on the website as well shortly after the season launch, because we want to make sure that the season launches pretty well and everything works out. And as soon as it's a little bit cooled down on our side, we're going to start working on updating everything. And that was all the questions in the FAQ. Do you want to add something, Nico, to that?
Not really. I just want people to know that there will be GMs available all the time. So if you have any questions, message us on Discord, either like in the Clockworks channel, or you can DM us or find us in game. And yeah, that was basically it, I think.
Yeah, so in the first 2 days, I won't be available, so try to contact the other GMs that are online and available. I'll try to answer some questions if I can, but I'm gone for 2 days, so if I'm not answering anything, please don't be offended or anything. So with that, we caught up with the already existing FAQ that we had. And now we're going to go and answer questions that you guys maybe have about certain systems. And it would be a good idea if maybe Michi is going to help us filtering some questions. Because you are going to start spamming questions now. It's really difficult to find good things. So if you have any questions right now, we're going to answer the questions that are in the chat that Vladi or Michi did not answer yet in the chat. So please go ahead, answer some questions. How's your cake going, by the way?
I don't want to talk about it.
This is like the first time ever that you're
baking, yeah.
Baking?
What does, bro? I'm looking at a German recipe. I don't understand anything. What is butyl mean? B-E-U-T-E-L.
It's butter.
No, it's
Beutel.
not. This, I wrote it in fuck. Wait.
Yeah, you handle that. The first question was that I've read was from Aaron, who basically asked, why is the GM event only starting a week after? We decided to make it a week later so that your guys are not interrupted with GM events. So you can just start leveling and doing all the stuff, dungeons and all the stuff, because the first few days of a season is always busy and you feel like you don't have enough time and you have to play like 24 hours a day and try to catch up with everything. So we decided to wait a couple of days, give you guys time that you can cool down, and then after that we're gonna start with GM events. How much money do you get in the new island in Eldion? So Eldion farming is pretty good actually, I think. What were your experience?
On the 1-on-1, I didn't have like, I was free hitting, and I think I made around 8p in like 20 minutes.
So that would end up in like 24 Perrin with decent gear. Was it free hit?
Yeah.
You're making like 24p on average. Like I don't know. I can't really tell. It always comes down to how good can you farm and how good is your gear and stuff. But apparently with like 3 hits you farm 24 Perrin, so that's not too bad. Let's see, where are more questions? Can you tell us about the map buffs Harle Seraph, Force Master Templars are going to receive? So the map buffs are focusing around that you have more speed and that you get more max speed, so you can get past 200% running speed. But Michi could answer those questions probably a little bit better because he's worked on it and he has a vision for it. So, want to say something, about the map buffs?
For now, the map buffs only entail speed, as you already said. Like, I think the current version has 80% speed and 30% exceed speed, like max speed. So technically, if you have the power-ups or the gear, you can reach 230% or higher, depending on how much else exceed speed you have on your gear. Reason being, we didn't want to add any damage numbers to those world buffs because, in my belief, at least, those damage things should be fixed through gear and skill changes. Adding them through a world buff would feel inconsistent. That you would deal one damage in one area and another damage in another area. It doesn't feel like you exactly know what is your own damage, so to say. So reasoning being for why we chose speed and exceed speed was basically many characters, specifically non-range characters, have the issue that most of the time that they lose is not based on the fact how long they take to kill a monster, but rather how long it takes them to get to the monster in the first place. So very early on, not many people have access to necessarily the best awakes on boots for movement speed, or they don't have the option to go for movement speed boots because they need ICD. They don't have the power ups necessarily because they don't have the money yet or the materials that they need to farm them. So we basically gave the classes that we thought were falling behind compared to everyone else that buff, mainly the 101 classes, except for Ranger. I'll get to that later why, or rather I'll get to it in a second why. And non-AoE classes, at least, that don't have their focus on AoE. So for example, Mentalist and Arcanist didn't receive that buff for obvious reasons, that they still have the AoE, which gives them, not only is it range, they also potentially can kill more monsters in fewer skills than a 101 having to run around. The Ranger has the range advantage, so a Ranger in general doesn't have to walk as much. And the fourth class was the Slayer. The Slayer, despite being a melee class and the 101 class, we didn't give it the speed buff or the world map buff because they basically have a much easier time reaching specific breakpoints with damage regarding to Eldeon and Cascada, which would make it like somewhat of a double buff to give them the exact same buff to that the struggling characters are receiving. So it's like before, the tier list was basically Arcanist and Mentalist were top 1 undisputed because of their AoE ability. Third place behind them was Crack Shooter. Slightly behind that was Slayer. And basically way below that was everything else. So we brought all of these things closer together. That's basically it.
Yes. Let's see. Does the tier list exist for characters? I mean, we have in the balance discussion, there's a pinned message where the damage values are on average for every class. And they're still fairly inaccurate, so nothing really changed about them, so you can look at them. Okay. Do you guys have any other questions? I don't see much besides like pretty simple questions. At what time starts a raid? It is at 6 p.m. server time.
Weaker classes will have a speed buff. Classes that fell behind in farming will have a speed buff, yes. Like, short speaking, yes. Can you explain the spare grid more? That's a good question.
Yeah, sure, we can do that. So with the introduction of Endless Tower, which is by the way, it looks like this, where my finger is. So if you look at that, this is how it looks inside. The Endless Towers has 2 versions. The first version has 25 fixed stages that you have to complete. after the completion of that stage, of this game mode, you're unlocking the sphere grid. But what do you do with the sphere grid now, right? So you go to the endless tower and the endless mode, which is basically endless, or it is endless. You go in there and you're going to play with all your teammates, and each stage that you complete, you're earning sphere grid EXP. And you want to try to level your sphere grid. It is basically like you go to Cascada, you just level there. It's basically the same, just that you have to do stages. And the stages scale and they get more difficult. The monsters have unique things and you need to learn it, and a lot of learning and a lot of trying, and you need to gear your character to go higher and higher and higher and higher. And the higher you go, the more EXP your sphere grid gets, because it gets more difficult, so you get more EXP. And when you're gaining a level, you have like the full sphere grid, and you can choose where to go. It's basically a big skill tree with a lot of stats that you can go for. There's like the main stats for your characters, crit chance, ICD, all that kind of stuff. It's all combined, like it is sorted for these characters and these classes, like specialized on that. And then there's on top of that an empty sphere that you have to unlock, which is most of the time like far away that you have to get. And if you are doing Dark Trials, our new dungeon, you have the chance to unlock or drop specific spheres that you can place into those empty spheres. And you can also always easily remove them, but you can try to optimize your character as much as you want for various situations. So maybe you want to have a lot of PvP damage, so you're gonna remove all your empty spheres and replace them with PvP damage. Oh, I'm playing PvE now, so I need a lot of PvE kind of spheres. So it's basically just another way to get stronger with your character and progress your character. And the Endless Tower has a dungeon entry limit, which is you can enter it 2 times a day. And you can decide between the 25 stage versions and the endless version. But what is the benefit of going to the stage version when there's no EXP for the sphere grid? You are also getting a new item in Endless Tower, and you just get way more items in the stage versions. If you don't want like sphere grid EXP or anything like that, you go in there, and if you want like 50% less of that item, but you want to earn sphere grid EXP, you go to the endless mode. And if you have done 2 entries and you cannot enter the Endless Tower anymore, you could go to Eldion, because as soon as you unlock the sphere grid, the Eldion questline unlocks for you at the Questmaster NPC in Eldion, and you can go for a big round with a lot of quests and earn sphere grid EXP there while your entries out of the Endless Tower is gone. The Endless Tower, you can access the Endless Tower if you go to Flaris right next to the Tower NPC or the Guild Clash NPC. He stands right next to them. Swapping the spheres is for free. You just have to press right click, remove, or double click one of those 2, and then you can freely, for free, remove them and replace them with another sphere. You just lose the sphere, so you just need another sphere. You just need to drop them. The level requirement for Endless Tower is 150, so with 150 you can enter it. What is the name of the knife Nico uses while cooking?
It's Satake Ame.
There we go. We have a question about the new endgame dungeon. There's an AR75 requirement. What about gear? Do we need ultra min max to do it?
You need very good gear.
Yes. So the requirements are in the teleporter, but I can give you a brief.
I think it's 950 HP and 4.8 mil DPS recommended.
So you need. The teleporter says the tank needs 925 KHP. The DPS needs 180 KHP, and the group DPS needs to be around 5 million. But of course, Bosses have resistances to various things and all this stuff. And we've tested the Dark Trials. We've been 8 people. We've tried it, and with fairly good endgame gear, I would say, we still struggled. It was fun as hell, and it took us the first time 47 minutes to clear the whole dungeon. And this
then we
is
buffed it.
and everything. And then we thought, damn, that was fun. Let's make it even harder.
Yeah.
And then we made it even harder. And that's gonna be fun. So 180k SDD means you need to have, as a damage dealer, you need to go full stamina and have a stamina pad to reach 180k. And
With,
I would say
with
Nico
Angelic
played
Fence.
Ringmaster and he had a lot of fun playing Ringmaster.
We have different opinions on having fun. everyone X-dead. Everyone was X-dead so many times.
Yep. So dying there
Does
a
the
lot
boss
is
just auto-attack?
common.
No. The boss have different mechanics himself, and there's also patterns on
Yes.
the ground. There's damage pattern, there is a stun pattern, and there is a you get a debuff that does double damage. It's basically like you get Holy Crossed.
We were generous enough that the boss doesn't debuff the Templar.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he's not losing the buffs, because he will probably die.
Do we have different phase? He has. Yes, he does.
Yeah, he does.
He does.
Yeah, he has different phases. You get the sphere grids in there that you need for the empty spheres, and you get a new item in there that you need to then be exchanged at Rheonan, that you can awake your fashion set for even higher stats. So it's basically a superior scroll awakening for your fashion set. Talking about fashion set and Yggdrasil, probably, that's what you probably want to need. We've introduced the Yggdrasil mask. You can now get the Yggdrasil mask, and with that you can have all 4 effects of the Yggdrasil set while using Hairband, so that's good. And it's very costly to get that mask, and the mask is pretty good, yeah, it's good.
We got a question earlier. Can Templar one-shot Eldian, and can the new Ringmaster skill one-hit farm? It depends on what you mean. If you mean the regular Eldian, the old one, Ringmasters can one-shot, yes, with the new skill.
Exactly.
They can. But you need investment.
It's always investment.
Yeah, everything's down to investment and awakes and everything. The testings we've done is with it's not completely endgame gear. I did our Ringmaster testings without the Yggdrasil set and mask. I used the Dragon King, and everything else was, completely decked out. 70 int awakes and so on.
Yep, correct.
But yes, it is possible to one-shot normal and Eldian monsters with the RM skill. I can't tell you about the night for the new map. I didn't test it myself. But what is the Curse of God? Is that for getting the Yggdrasil mask? That is basically
the Curse of God is for awakening your
fashion and cloak.
Yeah, it's basically the upgraded version of Blessing of Goddess.
Do we have any stats on that?
In terms of what?
In terms of regular one can have 5 ICD, can give you 5 ICD. How is it about the cursed one?
The Blessing of Goddess can have, if you have a stat, it's +7. If it's a percentage-based thing like ICD speed, it's 3. And with the Curse of God, it's going to be increased to, stats are going to 10, and percentage is going to 5. So you basically have full set gear plus cloak gives you 10% more percentage, and the other, I think it's 15 more stats. And for that you need the drop from the dragon. By the way, you get 100% chance to getting to be able to exchange this. So the dungeon is really difficult, so we made it so that at least the fashion thing is 100% guaranteed that you drop the thing and you can use it. When we are already talking about stats, there's the Hunter games. And the Hunter games is actually pretty fun. It is a game mode for between 5 and 62 players, depending on how many people sign up. You get separated into different maps. If it's 62, you get a really big map. It's 32, up to 32. It's a medium-sized map, and it is up to 12, something like that. It's a small map, and it's basically PK. You have monsters that are roaming around in that area, and you have everyone else that participates, and you have to kill those monsters to be able to get a new item, a token that you get, on a hunter. It's called Hunter Gem. You get the Hunter Gem from the monster, and everyone that has those tokens, or the top 5, will be displayed in a leaderboard. And you just, if you see someone having coins and you kill him, he dies and drops 10 of his coins, and you can just pick them up. You don't have to kill monsters. You can kill players and pick up their stuff all the time. So you basically run around all the time and kill people, try to kill monsters, try to get as many coins as possible. And as soon as a certain amount of monsters are being killed, extraction zones appear where you have to go in to be able to save your coins. If the time runs out and you're still in there with your coins, you lose everything. So you have to use the extraction points. So you go into the point, you try to escape, and if people come and try to kill you while you escape, you're in big trouble. So that's gonna be a very, 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 very fun mode.
Man, I dropped it. Wait.
What? You dropped it? I didn't see it.
Wait. I forgot to put in the butter in the... Oh my, this is disgusting.
You dropped the thing?
Bro, this cake is so scuffed. Ah, it's fine. It's fine, guys. We just pour it out. All good. Nothing happened. I was like...
Yeah, you're gonna rescue that while I continue.
I was cleaning up everything and I just noticed I have a bowl of like melted butter next to me.
Good one, good one.
All good, guys, don't worry.
So, why should you play this game mode? Yes, because you can exchange those coins or these hunter gems at the NPC to get new stat scrolls to get on your gear up to +8 of like strength, stamina, dex, and whatsoever. So it's very good if you play PvP, and it's also good if you play PvE. So, and yes, it is not equalized. You need your own gear. But you don't have to PvP. You can also just kill the monsters, try to survive as long as possible, just kill the monsters, and then run away as quick as possible. So that's gonna be crazy, crazy stuff. Yeah, the monsters will have a lot of HP, so they take a decent amount of time to kill. So, and you can also steal monsters. So if someone attacks a monster the whole time and it's almost dead, and you kill that person, and you kill that monster, these are your gems. Easy. That's why it's called a PK mode.
Nico, please don't leave that thing alone. Please hold it. I'm begging you.
I can already see it's falling down.
I'm a professional, man. Don't worry, all good. This is so...
Oh my god.
The extraction zones, you need to survive in that zone. There's a zone on the ground. It is going to be displayed on the ground, and you can walk inside that area. So if someone comes, you can a little bit dodge it and stuff. But it takes, I think, 10 seconds to escape. So you need to survive 10 seconds while other people attack you to get out.
And also you can't move out of the extraction zone.
Yes, if you move out of it, it's cancelled and you cannot escape. So you need to be in that zone, and everyone tries to be in that zone and try to escape. So that's gonna be a hell of a lot of fun. What else do you guys want to know? We have like an hour left of our time. We set a boundary of 2 hours. So if you still have some questions, go ahead, ask anything. Any tips for Harlequin class? Yes. Don't farm with it 1v1. Farm with it AoE. That's a big one. Because we have increased the... is it the projectile speed, I think? Or the animation speed that you cast faster. Pretty good. Will the Penya drop be the same? It will be the same. Doesn't matter if you play main or season. It's gonna be the same EXP and drop and Penya rate. I can't really go into detail to all the classes. Will this class be good, or this type of class, or this playstyle of that? You have to try to for yourself. I can just say AoE Jester with the Harlequin skill is pretty decent. It's really good for farming. It is better for 1v1. And for Seraph farming 1v1 or AoE, it depends on your gear. AoE is pretty good. 1v1 can also be very good, depending always on your gear. About Hunter games. Dark Illusion does not work. Dark Illusion does not work in the Hunter games. So, those classes can't be invisible. Why is there duct tape in the kitchen? Because he duct taped...
you don't see anything.
He duct taped the camera to... something. What else?
We can't disable Azel for Hunter games. That takes away like...
Will solo Harle dungeon farm work again? What does that mean? Do you refer to Savage Wilds? If you're gearing up your Jester, you can solo it. It just needs a lot of investment for soloing the hard mode dungeon. The easy mode, of course not. Talking about dungeons, we have also introduced the bonus things that you can do. Like if you kill 100 monster in the dungeon, you'll unlock like 5% more damage, 10% more drop, all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty good. But it's worth clearing the dungeons now. Any other things you're able to get from the Hunter game stat scroll? Besides the stat scroll? Nothing. Yeah!
Fifth
of
slot?
course!
Hello? Don't forget.
You get the 5th weapon card slot. And I think the stat scroll is an endless tower. Yeah, it's that way around. You get the 5th monster card slot. And the stat scroll is an endless tower. I forgot. Sorry. Disable ACL for Hunter games. No. Yeah, sorry. That was a mistake on my end. Did you change something in trials? Trials? We haven't touched trials. We got daily entries. Can we do 5 times easy savage? No, you have total entries. You can either do 5 easy or 5 hard or 3 easy and 2 hard or whatever combination you want. You only have 5 entries. You can choose which difficulty. Yeah, we have also added a bunch of new achievements that you can do. So if you're completely new and have no idea about seasons, I recommend going to the beginner NPC, which gives you a guide, which is the achievements system. You have this adventure bracket, and it pretty much guides you through everything. Like pro tip, as soon as you reach level 60, go into the Tower B1 and claim that Azria ticket. Very good, free Azria ticket. Is Colo good EXP? We have increased the EXP in Colo, but I wouldn't say it is on the same level as it was in the past, because in the past it was broken as hell, and now it's a little bit better than before. Will the VOD be available? Probably, I'm gonna upload it to my VOD channel. When do we get Vladdy's voice? No.
You will get Vladdy's voice on my stream tomorrow.
The guide is in-game, it's an achievement system. Anything else? Until which level is Colo useful? I think it has nothing to do with the level. You're not really leveling there. You want to get the tokens and the box, the legendary box, because it has some valuable items like the Skeleton Devil's Cloak in it, and you can use the Colo tokens for angel protection scrolls and stuff, so you don't have to use angel coins. Just a very good way. You get good power-ups in there. Yeah, the early few angel ranks in there, if you use like all the angel rank stuff and you do the first few stages of the legendary stage at least, or even the easy mode, you gain a pretty decent EXP up until like, I don't know, angel rank 30 or something, and then it's not really worth it though, in my opinion though. Why are there so few 1v1 nights? I don't know, it's personal preferences, I guess. In the past, most people used Ringmasters for tanking, and with all the changes that we have done, now I think Knight's gonna be a pretty decent tank. Especially with what we have not talking about. The Templar got 2 new skills. You want to talk about it?
Deadman Slur is a 7-second cooldown skill, which aggroes the monster. I mean, you take aggro from the monsters around you. It's a AoE skill. The other one is, I'm not completely familiar with the other one. It's
single target,
right? Yeah.
So there's the single target one. If the tanks a boss and the boss switches to someone else, he uses the single target and he has the aggro back. And then he has Deadman Lure, which is, it has a very big range. As soon as a monster attacks someone in the party, he uses the Deadman Lure skill and he just automatically gets the aggro from all of the monsters, and they're basically a big taunt. So they are attacking the tank, and it has 7 seconds cooldown, so you cannot spam it like crazy. So that's pretty nice. A good addition to a tank. Yeah, he has 2 aggro skills.
Can you make
a
DPS table for all classes in maxed up equipment on 150 totem or boss, please? So we can compare DPS. I mean, if someone gives me all classes with maxed out gear, I can do that.
We already have done that. It is in the ballast suggestion. Not with the new things, not spirit and stuff, but maybe we can work on something like that in the future.
You got it. Oh,
does Deadman's Lure work that way that you use it and all monsters switch on you upon cast, but every monster spawning with the 7-second cooldown has a free aggro target on any player? Yes. You use the skill, you get if the monsters are alive, like let's say there's 10 monsters alive, you use the skill, all the 10 get you're gonna get aggro from all the 10. If then in that time while the Deadman Lure is on cooldown, a new monster spawns, this one attacks any monster, any person that's close to him again, if he's aggro, of course. So it's not like you get the aggro for 7 seconds while it's in cooldown from every monster that appears. Just a one-time use, you get all the monsters that are close by the aggro from. You can taunt the boss before it hits who it swapped it to correctly. Don't think so. He still would attack that guy.
Do amplis give extra XP for AR, or do only angel amplis amplify? What do you mean? Normal amplis?
Yes,
they do?
normal amps also work for angel levels.
Yes, so you can stack normal amps and angelic amps while using angel rank leveling.
You can stack the normal amps, but you can't stack the angel amps.
Yeah, it's just a one thing.
one angel amp.
One
then,
angel amp and 5 normal amps
5.
is possible for leveling angel rank. How long do you hold aggro? Depending on the type of the monster. If it's just a normal monster, it will always keep attacking the tank without switching. If it has the switch system, then it would eventually switch back again, even though you use the taunt skill.
Hi, I just joined. Got a few questions. Are other classes viable to tank? Example, Blade/BP. I mean, yes, they are to a certain dungeon.
Yeah, to a certain degree, but yeah. I think the benefits with a Blade or BP tanking at the end, when it comes to higher dungeon like Hephaestus or Dark Trials, I think those two classes are not really viable for tanking.
How do we get dust in the game? I can't recall how to get them for weapon rerolling.
Weapon rerolling.
Dust the weapons.
So, for example, you want advanced weapon reroll dust. You go to Anku, you kill Anku, and then you have like EX of Anku. I don't know the name right now. Butcher's Carnage or whatever.
Butcher, Dragon Ray.
The Butcher Carnage. You go to the reroll NPC and you can dust it there. Salvage it to dust, and then you have advanced reroll dust for rerolling your weapons. Angel Coin's gonna be a hot commodity this season. Yes, definitely. And you get way more Angel Coins in Eldion, just gonna say. And we have reworked the first area of Eldion. It is pretty well made for AoE classes, and you farm a lot more Angel Coins there than you would in Cascada, but you lose a tiny little bit of parents.
Do I need to reroll every time I upgrade my star weapon by a star, or does the gap stay the same between the star I got and the max stat?
Yeah, okay. So, what you could basically do is you can press Control, I think, on the weapon, on the star weapon, and you're always you're always rolling the actual 6-star roll. It's just gonna get minimized depending.
Scaled down.
Yeah, scaled down on how many stars you have. So you practically see your endgame stats, what you have rolled there. Anything about the taunt skill, how it exactly works, with every specifics, I can't answer. Maybe Vlad will answer that in chat. So if you have any particular question with that, ask him, so he can give you the answer on that. What happened to the cheesecake?
I answered that it's in the oven for 1 hour. Don't expect anything. If you don't hear back from me in 1 hour, you know how it went. So if Deadman Slur doesn't pull aggro before a boss attacks another player, how does it make it viable compared to RM tank? Feels like it just became something fancy, but RM's still better. RM is it depends. Like I can agree that RM would be better for the lower tier dungeons, but when you get to like Hefa and Dark Trials, that's where Templar will shine.
Oh yeah, I will guarantee
because let's be honest, people, Anku and those bosses, they're fairly easy. But when you get up in levels and start doing the harder dungeons, then Templar will shine.
Also, if you are thinking only about possibly stealing aggro, don't forget knights in general have a higher chance to be targeted than ringmasters, so there is lower attacks on damage dealers in that sense. And secondly, some bosses have mechanics where they spawn aggro monsters around themselves, which will then be attacking your teammates. So Deadman's Lure is basically a very easy solution to having that problem where you might run into your teammates getting run down by a horde of aggro monsters, and you as the tank are just standing around and waiting for them to deal with themselves. Now you have the ability to basically do everything for them.
Correct.
With the skill, you're making your DPS's life easier.
Definitely. Do we plan a similar feature for this, like the star system for Yggdrasil set? I mean, you already have a very good set, which is the dragon set until that point, and I don't see a reason to have like a starred version for Yggdrasil set right now. How many Angel Rank 100s were there last season? I think I've heard the number 100, but I'm not sure about that number.
You can look on the ranking on the website for last season, at least for the top 100 people.
Oh yeah, true. What's the best solution to level 3 characters? One main class, two buffer class. What I've always recommend, if you're new to the game, make a ringmaster, make a bill poster, level them to 130. Only these two, level them together, and then create a main character. Because you're gonna have a way easier time leveling this level 1 character with all the buffs from Force Master and Seraph than just having one main character leveling a bill poster and a ringmaster while you're leveling the main char. It just takes a long time. Like what I've seen, or what I've done actually, is you take like 2-3 hours to level your ringmaster or bill poster to 130, and then you create a new character that you want to be main class with, a blade, frag shooter, whatever. You give them the buffs, and you level like 4 or even 6 times faster. Like it's ridiculously faster because the buffs early on are super broken, which is really good for leveling then. Really, you had a wardrobe system.
What do you mean by that? Because we already have the transmutation system, which is basically a wardrobe system.
Yeah. You can put stuff in your transmutation window, and then just skin over your fashions so you look cool. You have that already. Tank AI says Knight has 96% chance to target. Does it roll again for every boss attack? And Vlad answered with yes. So yes, it does. Will there be new fashion for vote points? Not planned right now. Is there anything more for gameplays kind of things that you maybe have questions on? Or is there anything that the patch notes didn't really clarify, or what the season announcement didn't really clarify that you want to have answers from? Because all of these small little questions, like what to level what and how, we could answer somewhere else in the Discord, for example. What's the smartest way to spend vote points during a season? Probably early on amps.
What are the changes to the color boxes? Color box.
The changes for the colo box. Yeah, the colo box was super broken, so we've made some changes. We removed some items out of it, buffed some other items, so we just reworked it a little bit. But as soon as you're in game, or I even posted it on the Discord, if you go to the screenshot channel, you can check. I've made a GIF which basically displays the current items in it, but you can also check it later in the game while Seasons is there. Oh yeah, vote points early on are also very good for unlocking beat slot keys, so you probably want to prioritize beat slot keys, amps, and then like mask or vote set, something like that. Someone always asks, why is Arcanist's Cursed Mind effect now only increases the damage by the caster instead of every Arcanist? And can you make it back for all mages? Michi, do you want to answer that question?
Yes. If we want to go through the history of the good old skill Cursed Mind, for official Flyff, Cursed Mind increases the damage of all magic abilities. So what was happening was we had a balance nightmare where it was impossible to balance Mentalists because of the Arcanist skill existing, because they would basically make Mentalists deal double damage the entire time, which was completely insane. So then we limited it to Arcanists only. The problem that comes with that was because we limited to Arcanists only, it gave us the ability to make Mentalists better in general cases that do not rely on Arcanists casting the skill. But the same problem came up with only Arcanists. So now, instead of an Arcanist buffing a Mentalist damage, some groups were taking Arcanists that had 0 gear whatsoever into the raids with themselves, whose only job was to basically cast Cursed Mind and nothing else to increase the damage of all the other Arcanists that were in that group. Therefore, what happened was, if you have multiple Arcanists, you have a higher chance, obviously, to proc Cursed Mind, because it's not a 100% chance. You cannot have 100% uptime with only one person. If you have multiple Arcanists, your damage is not as calculated anymore in our DPS tests. It actually increases because of the higher uptime. So we had to basically limit Cursed Mind this season, or basically any season going forward if we don't change it back or whatever, to only the caster, to preserve the balance of having them deal appropriate 101 damage without it being influenced by outside sources that we don't want to have, basically. It is a balance issue, and that's the fix that we implemented to make sure it doesn't stay a balance issue.
Okay, so we have another big question, which is very hot right now, which is, why did we cap the crit chance to ICD conversion on crack shooters?
I can also answer that one. Crack shooters, at least in our opinion, in the very beginning of a season, or rather in the beginning of their gear farming, do not have an issue with having too much damage, so to say. The problem becomes apparent once people start min-maxing their gear, basically. When you manage to get very, very high crit chance awakes on your gloves, when you have way more dexterity because of your Bloodbane weapon, when you start getting more power-ups and stuff that basically give you triple scaling, with dexterity giving you damage, dexterity giving you crit chance, which then in turn converts into crit damage. At some point, this scaling, this exponential scaling, just becomes way better than any other scaling options that every other class in the game has. So we made the decision. Early on, crack shooters were more or less fine with their gear, but at some point we had to make sure that they just don't get ahead of everyone else by a massive degree by just abusing the fact that their crit converts. We already had this cap in PvP scenarios. I think at either 150 or 200% at some point we may have buffed it. And I think it's the best solution. Why we specifically chose 380% was Yuga and I went through some of the very high level characters with very good gear, and we noticed they basically had a breakpoint somewhere around 450, 470-ish ICD, crit chance that would be converted into ICD. And after a few rounds of testing, it became apparent that somewhere around the 380 ICD threshold, the damage was fine. As in, it wasn't overpowered, but it was still high enough to justify making a 101 crack shooter and keep building that class. But we basically removed the very, very top ability of just complete insane damage.
Thanks for the answer, by the way.
Yeah, I saw him dancing around.
He's being the Mexican guy. How's the
Classic
cheesecake going?
I don't wanna know.
I
Can you show the
don't know.
Templar damage to see if it's a bait or not? I can't.
No.
Yo, it's not looking bad.
No, it's not. You look like a Mexican cook.
The cake's not looking bad.
Can you show it?
Yes. It's looking like shit, guys. Oh no, oh
The
no.
blur.
I mean, you can't really see it, but it's like starting to get firm.
That's good.
Yeah, melted, nice.
How much lower is the chance of getting green armor parts from normal monsters? Significant. I would recommend with that change that early on you at least go once or twice into the new dungeons, the new low-level dungeons, which are a Mars Mine, a Temple of Evilness, and Decaying Mine. So the monsters in there have the normal drop rate that they had before in the overworld, and the bosses have a higher chance than they had in the overworld, and overall everything is lowered in the overworld. Basically, it's really difficult now to find legendary golden weapons from bosses in pretty much every region. Same for set parts. On average, if you go in that dungeon twice, you should have your set and you should have your weapon. If not, you've been very unlucky. And what we introduced for seasons, that you can enter as a master. It's not just limited to up to 120, it's limited now to 120 master. Mars Mine dungeon is from 70 to 120. You can farm the level 75 sets or the historic weapons in there. Temple of Evilness is from level 85 to 120. Basically always 5 levels under the level requirement of the weapon. You get level 90 gear and angel weapons in there. And Decaying Mine is level 100 to 120. You get legendary golden and 1 of 5 sets. And if you don't know where the boss are, little trick, click on the name on the right side that it's displayed, then it shows you.
Daily resets 4 AM.
Dungeon
No.
resets are at 4 AM, and almost all other resets are at 4 AM. Besides daily quest, they're at midnight, server time. And in the top right now, under the minimap, if the minimap is big enough, there's going to be a clock with your time and the server time. And if the server time is the same time as yours locally, and it's just displaying your time. And yes, it will be German time, CEST, Central European Summertime. Yeah, before going into those dungeons, I'd recommend when you're leveling to level 60, you're picking up the beginner chips, and for 100 beginner chips, you can purchase the 45 set, and for 50 beginner chips, you can purchase the Guardian weapons. Nico's playing around because he's waiting.
He's entertaining, chat.
What's the beginner chips? You drop them from normal monsters from level 1 on to level 90. Monsters level 90. You drop those beginner chips. And you can exchange them in Flaris at the beginner chip NPC. For all the new players, as I already mentioned, use the achievement system to get used to everything, and you also get a lot of free things. M's, premium, the tickets to Coral Island, Azria, I think even Rhotasia, I'm not true, Trazeria. So that's good. So that's pretty good. Do we get a wheelchair mount now? No. Any other big questions? Are you guys still happy with all the changes, or still have other ideas to put in but didn't get them in time? I mean, we always overflow with ideas. What we could put in. Maybe Michi, you want to answer something?
There's
More
plenty of
XP.
things that we more XP. No, there is things that we wanted to add for season 4 or in general, but we decided against it after a long time. I'm not sure if we are going to think about it and re-adding those in a later date, but some things that I could reveal. Let me quickly open the correct file here. What we wanted to implement initially, I think we made the announcement 1 year ago, was dungeon speedruns. But the issue that we have with them is that they are way too restrictive in their current form. Dungeon speedruns, to explain to the people here in the chat, would have basically been a system where people have to create on-level characters for the specific dungeons, and weekly there is a competition to trying to clear it as quickly as possible with your party, essentially, and trying to get the best time. And the rewards would basically be exclusive mounts, for example, exclusive CS items, basically just swag, more or less, for the people that want to compete in it. But after thinking about it a while, it's basically going to be a system that would probably not get very wide adoption. Not very many people would create characters for these specific speed runs, as they would require a lot of characters, and the people that are tryharding are basically going to invest hundreds, if not thousands, of parents into the on-level characters. So we discarded that, at least for now. Perhaps in the future, when we, I don't know, add nightmare versions of the dungeons where it's harder to do, and we increase the item level, not item level, I'm sorry, the level requirement to 150, where at that point we might think about it, because at least at that point you can use your main character to do it. But yeah, in its current iteration we cannot have it. There was also another system that we, I think 2 years ago, thought about adding, but we never did. It was the automatic invasions. Basically, what the idea was, that with Eldeon, or rather any map that we have, randomly somewhere monsters would invade in a similar fashion with the rifts that we currently have, but instead of in Madrigal, they would spawn instead of in rifts, they would spawn in Madrigal there, and you would have to run there and kill monsters. But We decided against it because it would have some clarity issues with where you would have to go, what is how long it's lasting, and it not being confined to a specific area also means it's subject to being not abused, but being worse depending on how many people are currently online. As in, since it would have not been an instant with rifts or raids, we have implemented dynamic amount of rifts that open depending on how many people apply, giving us the ability to way more properly balance the rewards and the difficulty of each dungeon that you enter. An overworld invasion like this would basically mean we have to wing it. It would have to be completable with like 10 people or 400, depending on how many show up. And it kinda would also have to feel decent enough for how many people show up, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
for the future, you can also think about like, there's probably, I'm saying probably with a very big probably, there's not going to be that many systems that rely on overworld things. Like, world bosses are one thing because we basically can scale their HP with how many people apply to them, but anything that requires an amount of monsters to be specifically tailored to how many people are online is probably never going to happen in the overworld. Those are two things that we put the most thought into it for sure, but never managed to find a good way to implement them properly.
Yeah.
How does the glyphs work? Did we answer that question?
No. But before I answer the glyphs, there was also the question if there's going to be an easy mode for dungeon like Deathwing or Hefa. Practically, what you're playing right now is the easy version. It's just the normal version. Or maybe something in the future we're gonna do with those dungeons. We'll see. But that's coming back to glyphs. With the off season, we have introducing glyphs, which are basically replacing orbs. If you still remember orbs, you could do dungeons and bosses could drop orbs, and they have various stats. Some were completely useless, some were useful, some were broken. So we decided we wanted to get rid of the orbs and replace them with a better system, which feels more like progressive, and you have something more permanent because you're not relying on drop rate like crazy. Because sometimes, let's say, you couldn't use 30% ICD orb all the time because it barely drops. And we've decided to implement the glyph system where you can basically just create a glyph with your main stat that you have, strength, stamina, dex, int, and you can upgrade that with various items that you drop over in various areas of the game, and also the new rifts where you get 3 different stones. The normal stones, the strange stones, and the unusual stones. From the practically easy rift, which is the normal stone, the normal rift or the hard rift is the strange stone, and then the unusual in the really hard rift. And practically a rift is spawning somewhere in the world, and you have to travel there, find it. It's basically just like the dragons of Madrigal. You travel there and you just click the crystal and you sign up for it. And then in a rift can be up to 20 people, and depending on how many people are in the rift, it scales. Like if you have 5 players, then it is scaled to 5 players, and if you have 20, then it's 20. And if there are more than 20 people signed up, it's going to get split into multiple layers, so to say, so multiple instances of the rift exist. So you're not missing out. If you're the 21st person, you cannot enter. It's just going to get split into a group of 10 and 11, practically. So in those rifts, you have to clear stages. There's monster stages, and they are rewarding you after each stage. You get like angel dust, angel coins, whatsoever. And up in the end, you have an end boss that you have to kill. He has patterns, and you have to dodge them, you have to kill them. And if you're in a normal rift, an auction window opens like we had for the Titans, or like what we have right now, the raids. You basically get an auction where you can also purchase glyphs in, the baby versions of the bosses and the monsters and other things, and can purchase that. Originally, if you kill the boss, you have a chance to also gain vanishing stones, which is basically a small reward that you have cleared the rift. You can sell that just for Penya. It has no other value than just selling it to the NPC, and then you have the mythical stones that you need to upgrade or refill your glyphs, because glyphs are refillable.
Their time is refillable.
Yeah, their time is refillable, yeah. And then you have like 3 different variations. Okay, now that you have the stones, as soon as the glyph reaches level 4, it is getting a secondary stat that can be rerolled. It can be all stat, max speed, PvP damage, ICD, CC, all various stats, and they have different ranges. And depending on what stat you choose, it has different refill costs, basically. And then you just maximize the max out the glyph, giving you 50 stats of strength, star, dex, int, depending on what you've chosen, and the secondary stat that you can just reroll all the time, or you can also just create new glyphs over and over and over again until you get your secondary stat that you want. That's basically the glyph and rift system. If you die in a rift, do you lose EXP? Yes, it's just like in the overworld. If you die, you lose EXP, but you can enable EXP stop if you don't want to die.
How do you get 25p an hour? You farm.
How long will it take an average person to get a dragon set? Depending on how much you farm per hour.
And your priorities, of course.
Yeah.
And the ways you acquire money. If you do dungeons for dungeon drops, if you only farm Cascada and nothing else. If you sell part of your drops, if you only, like, if you sell your angel coins, for example, to players, or if you only keep the money and everything else. Like, it entirely depends how willing you are to invest into acquiring them.
Exactly. A small change that we also did with the introduction of rifts is the world bosses give you 2 shards now. And this is still the only way to get angelic bead shards is from the dragons of Madrigal. Can I still do Meteor at 120 Master? Yes, it's up to 130 Hero. Do you guys have any last questions that we're going to answer? Otherwise, I would wrap up the Q&A, because it feels like there's no new questions that are worth answering. So just put them in. We go through them real quick, and then we're gonna end the stream. And then at the end of the stream, I still have a big announcement for people that love watching streams. So there's that. Does Mass Mine need tanks? It is for solo players. You could solo it optimally. You want some food and some buffs. So all that you need. It has very low requirement. Can you upload the Q&A? Yes, it will be uploaded. As only dragons drop the beat shards. How long does it take without Seraph Force Master buffs to get to 80 Master?
That depends on like your
playstyle. Yeah, it depends on your skill on farming and leveling.
Those questions we can't answer. It's a lot of factors that come in play.
For some it can take half an hour, for some it can take a week. It's hard to answer, you know?
Yeah. Can I still run Meteor at 120? Yes.
I would say if you know the game decently enough, it takes roughly an hour
Cake.
to reach an hour 30 to reach 80 master.
Cake looks good. I guess I will post a picture in Discord later.
Yeah, if you
When
want
it's
an
done.
update on the cake, then check out the Discord.
No taste testing though.
Yeah, seems like we are going to wrap up this because there's no more gameplay related questions. So if you like live streams and you want to watch something while the first or during the release, because I will not be here, I usually do a big stream where I'm giving away free CWT for people that watch a stream, right? So since I cannot do that because I am not physically at home, you will be able to watch a Nico stream and you can win free CWT there probably every hour on the hour, but he's gonna explain that in his stream. And let's get your Twitch name in the chat, and then people can follow you to see when he is live. So here it is. Follow him, and on the first day of the stream, right when the season begins, go to his stream, follow him, watch him, and then each time he tells you to use the redeem button for the giveaway, do that, and you have a good chance of winning that. And everyone that is impersonating him, which is almost impossible, don't trust those people, because some people try to do some janky stuff.
72-hour drunk stream? If you PayPal me, I'll do it.
He also said if you do 5 gifted subs, you're gonna crack an egg on his head.
I have 1 egg left. Yo, the cake's not looking bad.
If you don't win CWT, do I get at least in-game a cake? Maybe.
If you don't...
I mean, there's Christmas cakes, he just needs to farm a lot then.
I watched Yuga's stream for the entire time and I didn't win a single time. It's rigged.
Yeah. It is rigged. RNG
we
is
can't
rigged.
afford subs, we need to buy CWT.
That's good. Do that. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Thanks for stopping by. I very much thank Nico for being the co-host, answering questions with me. I'm also thanking Michi, Tetris, for answering questions that I had no answer to, or Nico had no answer to, or needed a little bit more depth of why exactly. Thank you very much for answering those. And the last question is, did you work on a dungeon finder? And the answer is, there's an LFG channel, use it. Thank you for watching. See ya, bye bye.
Bye guys.
Bye.